We begin, partner, in New Mexico during the old wild American West with Jin Carter, outlaw, gambler, and infamous con man, along with his gang, Flynn, an orphan, thief, and witch, Laughing Deer, an exiled Native American tribal warrior, and Clive, also known as Kestrel Colt, a gunslinger who's Jin's protege and best friend. After receiving a tip about a train full of federal gold, the group rides out on their horses, planning to board and rob it under cover of night. Upon boarding, it transforms into the Ghost Engine, a hellish train conducted by Mammon, a devil disguised as a man, and it's invaded by several Hellspawn, his demon servants. Reaching the front of the train, the gang confronts Mammon, and after realizing that he can't be killed by their weapons, Jin challenges him to a single-handed poker, where if they win, the powerful ghost train is theirs, but if they lose, Mammon claims their souls. Mammon deals, using Jin's card deck, which he uses to cheat with, and so it at first appears that the group wins, with their 4 aces to Mammon's 4 kings. However, at the last second, Mammon also cheats by drawing a joker, which wasn't even present within the deck, and uses it as a wild card 5th king, giving him 5 of a kind, winning the hand. As the victor, Mammon begins absorbing their souls, causing Flynn to quickly use her supernatural powers to teleport herself and Jin away from the train, leaving Deer and Kestrel behind. While seeking shelter from the sudden, unnatural snowfall, the duo come across an abandoned farm, where they encounter Old Man Bill, a corpse reanimated by Mammon as he passed nearby aboard the ghost train. In life, Bill was an outlaw, thief, sheriff, bounty hunter, and exorcist, but now in Undeath, seeks to kill Mammon in order to return to his eternal rest, and so with a mutual interest, joins Jin's crew. The trio proceeds south, stopping at the train station and learning of an avalanche blocking the eastern pass out of the valley, before continuing on to Boomtown, a small town where they find Deer, about to be hanged in the gallows of the town square. Storming the town, the gang frees Deer, forcing them to kill their way through Sheriff Richie and his men in order to make their escape, after which, Deer explains that he jumped from the ghost train when Jin and Flynn disappeared, and while he staggered around in the snow, a passerby recognized him from a wanted poster, captured him with a group of men, and took him to Boomtown. In search of a way to clear the avalanche, the gang's directed to Old Mervyn, a local with knowledge of the surrounding mountain paths, who confirms that the ghost train caused the avalanche, and tells them about Whistle Pass, which they should be able to clear of snow using the powerful blue dynamite stored in the old mine near it. Mervyn also advises them that bandits have set up camp there and draws them a crude map, showing a hidden path into the camp, which allows them to sneak in, surprising the bandits. After killing them all, the gang takes and sets up the blue dynamite at the blocked pass, clearing it with a powerful explosion before beginning to move through it. As they traverse the now cleared pass, they encounter Kestrel, who also eventually made it off the ghost train, though he now views the gang members as his enemies, firing his gun at them, causing another avalanche which reseals the pass behind them, as they narrowly escape it in Kestrel, finding themselves in Oregon. Heading south, the crew arrives at Zeke's trading post, where they meet Clalish, a Native American tracker, who agrees to guide them around the area to help with their search for the ghost train, in exchange for them helping her to free her mentor, a sage named Lalanaet. Heading to the sacred site, where Lalanaet was taken, they encounter the Shadow Dance, an extremist Native American tribe of warriors who use forbidden witchcraft in their goal to violently purge all settlers from their lands. There, they find Lalanaet, chained to a sacred stone pillar, which the Shadow Dancers are channeling her powers through in order to influence the weather, causing the abnormal, snowy winter in June. After slaying all of the Shadow Warriors and freeing Lalanaet, the group escorts her back to her home at Blackfish Village, where she tells them the legend of the ghost train, known to the natives as Uktana, the Great Snake. She further informs them that it's escaped from hell, with the purpose of stealing as many souls as possible, leaving a path of destruction in its wake. Lalanaet describes a gateway between the worlds of the living and the dead, which the group names Hellgate Station, where the ghost train must always return to after it rampages across the land, and claims that Flynn will be able to sense its exact location after augmenting her mystical powers. Continuing on their journey, Clalish introduces the gang to Lazarus, a former preacher, now hunter of the supernatural, who, along with his partner, a scientist named Solomon Delir, is currently tracking Mammon and the ghost train. Solomon created the Siphon, a device which gathers the residual demonic energy that powers Mammon and the ghost train from the areas that it passes through. Lazarus offers to accompany the group, while they figure out a way to again get through the avalanche, in order to pick up the Siphon he previously set up in Boomtown, which should now be full of the demonic energy, so that they can take it to Solomon, and he can use it to figure out a way to kill Mammon. The crew enters Kalakala, a small town whose inhabitants fled after the ghost train smashed through it, causing the dead to resurrect as revenants and chase them away. After killing the revenants, the gang gather around the trail left by the ghost train, with Flynn attuning to its residual demonic energy, enhancing her supernatural tracking ability. Journeying on to the Spirit Totem, where Lalanaet previously directed them, the group encounters the Bear Spirit, who assists Flynn in performing a vision ritual to further increase her mystical senses. Afterward, she's able to determine that Hellgate Station is located in Utah, leaving the clearing of the avalanche as the next obstacle. Heading into Pine Falls, a bustling modern town, the crew speaks to the foreman of the Icebreaker expedition, which has the mutual goal of clearing the avalanche and regaining access to Boomtown, but is short of laborers and a missing demolition engineer needed to properly configure the explosives. The gang convinces the displaced Kalakala refugees, who escaped the town, to join the expedition in exchange for food and shelter, utilizing their seasoned pioneer worker skill set. Following a lead from Lazarus, the crew ventures to O'Kane's farm, where they find the engineer, kidnapped by Moses O'Kane and his clan of cultist zealots. While destroying the cult and killing Moses, the group frees the imprisoned engineer before they all head back to the expedition's base, located at the foot of the avalanche, where the explosives are triggered and the pass is successfully reopened, clearing the way back to Boomtown. Upon re-entering Boomtown, the crew discovers it's been taken over by shadow dancers and their Wendigos, large beast-like creatures, forcing them to fight their way through, recover the siphon, and jump aboard the last train to Utah as it departs the station, while still being chased after by the tribe, on horseback. During the continued fighting, the ghost train pulls up alongside the Utah train in passing, leading the group to capitalize on the opportunity to confront Mammon by jumping aboard. They again run into Kestrel, who decouples the rear train cars as they're making their way to the front of the train, causing them to be thrown from the resultantly massive wreckage. Looking around to get their bearings, the crew realizes that they still ended up in Utah, near their destination of Black Salt City, where Solomon is supposed to be waiting for them. Instead, they find only a telegram from Solomon awaiting them in the city, explaining that he went on ahead to San Argent, a medium-sized town on the opposite end of a valley-spanning railroad bridge, the only passageway to it, which is currently occupied by a large force of shadow dancers and Wendigos, who kill anyone that comes near. While drinking at the city saloon, the gang comes up with a plan. Get explosives, steal a train, mount a Gatling gun on it, and ride it to the bridge, while mowing down anything that tries to stop them. Entering an abandoned strip mine, the crew fights their way through a coven of witches, who are able to summon revenants themselves using witchcraft, before looting the leftover explosives and escaping. At the Penance train station, the gang steals a brothel train, whose owner won't report its theft to the sheriff, thus avoiding a potential run-in with the law, and hides it on an abandoned sidetrack near the bridge. The group then makes a deal for the Gatling gun with Reg Hartman, a local arms dealer, involving robbing a private bank in Trampletown belonging to Victor Brass, the industrial mogul owner of Brass & Company, as well as Black Salt City's bank, which they discover has already been robbed of its gold by the Copper Vulture gang, led by Biting Ben Donahue, Bill's son, forcing the crew to head to their hideout in Scorndale and reclaim it. After fulfilling Hartman's final demand of killing Lady Shrike, a shadow dance renegade and former friend of Deer's, at St. Jude's Parish, the group finally acquires the Gatling gun, which they install on the train. Firing up the train and racing it toward the bridge, the crew uses the Gatling gun, train, and their own weapons to annihilate an army of Wendigos who rush toward them before arriving at the Shadow Dancers' bridge camp. Cutting through the camp, the group places the timed explosives on the underside of the bridge as they pass through, which detonate once they're safely across, preventing anyone from following after them. Heading to Solomon's office in San Argent, they deliver the siphon, and Solomon explains that he'll use the demonic power contained within to forge bullets, which will be able to kill Mammon, but that he also needs uranium, a special rare metal, in both alloy and gunpowder form. After stealing his materials, again from Brass & Company, Solomon is kidnapped by Kestrel, forcing the gang to face him at a nearby hacienda in order to take him back. Upon being returned to his office, Solomon completes his work, forging dozens of profane bullets, which the group takes with them as they depart. Following Flynn's senses to a corner of the desert, the crew discovers a shimmering barrier composed of wailing spirits, which prevents their advance. Using Claylish's Thousand Voices Dead ability, which allows her to absorb and communicate with the spirits of the dead, she has the choice to absorb or disperse them, and chooses dispersal, clearing the way forward. Locating the ghost train parked at Hellgate Station, the group fights their way through and onto it, just before it departs. Once aboard, they're met by Kestrel, who offers to join them in their final battle against Mammon, explaining that he can also operate the train to return them to the world of the living afterward, in exchange for them leaving the ghost train to him. The crew accepts, loading their guns with the profane bullets before the ghost train enters Limbo, a world between the living and the dead, as they fight their way to Mammon at the front of it. After a fierce battle, the gang is finally able to kill him by using his own power against him, dealing the final blow with an imbued bullet, and fully reclaiming their souls. However, as Mammon disappears, all life drains from Kestrel, as he was the only one initially left behind, and had his soul completely absorbed, being kept alive only by Mammon's presence. To prevent the crew from being stranded in Limbo forever, Jin transfers his soul into Kestrel, who comes back to life and manages to operate the ghost train, returning them all to the world of the living, except Jin, whose lifeless body drifts away. Crashing upon arrival, the remaining gang members look up from the ghost train's wreckage, witnessing a massive twister of demonic energy rampaging through the surrounding desert.